Sometimes we know what our kids are thinking before they even do it. We already know what they're thinking about doing. We already can see, and we say the spirit on them. No, it's our emotional connection. You wake up in the middle of the night, and this is for the saved and the unsaved. And so you wake up in the middle of the night and you call your child and just say, what's going on? And next thing you know, they're in impeding danger or something's going on. They're pulled over on the side of the road. That is emotional intimacy. It's greater than connection because you can just be connected to them because that's your child. But you are intimately involved with them. Soul is touching soul. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Conversations Beyond the Pulpit, the podcast where we delve into the human experiences through the lens of faith. I'm your host, Bishop Joseph Roberts Jr., joined by my wonderful co-host, my beautiful, illustrious wife, Pastor Michelle Roberts. We left you off last week with the cliffhanger as we begin to talk to you about something that happened in our family 12 years ago. Could have been disruptive, but because of our intimacy with one another as a married couple and the intimacy we have with our children, I'm telling you, it turned into such a blessing in our life and in the life of our family. So we're going to start off with the cliffhanger that we left you with last week. Is that okay we talk about that?
It's okay. I think I'll start this one off.
Sure.
So, in this cliffhanger, he was acting very strange, a little bit distant, like something was bothering him. And every time I asked him, you all right? You okay? Yeah, I'm good. He'd run out the door, go about his day. But every time it was something on his mind. So then one day I just asked him. And the place we like to talk, like I like to have conversation because the children are in bed or the children are asleep, was in our bedroom.
This is a great segue.
So then I said to him this one day, I don't know what you're doing, but whatever it is, it's going to stop today. Today.
Oh, that's emotion.
And he was like, no, the emotion got to be there. It has to be there. So he was like, well, babe. And I was like, well, no. He was like, well, babe, this is what's been going on. It's funny you asked today.
So when she asked that particular day, but a good segue. We probably should have hit this last week. We have a lot of private, intimate conversations in our bedroom. We literally do. As my wife was just saying, the kids are asleep. Now the grandkids are asleep. And it gives us an opportunity, and we started this years ago. We would just have what we call reflection moments. End of the day, we would talk about the kids' day. Seldomly do we even get to us. We just talk about business, church, what's going on in the life of the kids, the things we need to implement and put in place. And we take that space right in our bedroom, you know. Some nights we just...
And that was because I had his full...
Undivided
attention at that time. Because if we're moving about and he's moving about, he'll just go from room to room when I'm trying to have a conversation with him. So then I just started having conversations when we were deciding to take it down for the evening.
This is really good when you're talking about building emotional intimacy, knowing when to talk to each other. So we just gave you another little nugget that we have exercised. And when I say exercise, we still work it today. That is our space that we talk in. So my wife, you know, asked me this evening, as she just forestated. And so what I do, I give her a letter. I said, here's what's been going on. And so she reads the letter and she looks at me and says, I already knew that's what was going on. So all right, how do we deal with it? How do we address it? So about 12 years ago, I was given a letter. And in the letter, it informed me that, At that point, it was 30 plus years prior that I potentially, is what the letter said, had fathered a child at that point. And this is way before we met each other, high school years, being completely transparent. And we talked about it, my wife and I, and she says, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take the information that you now have gathered, and we're going to find, because here, if you went this far and it's bothering your heart, we're going to make sure that if he is possibly your son, then he's going to be a part of the family. And if he isn't, then at that point, we will just wish the mother all the best and see what we can do to help her reunite. And so we took that approach, and some months went by, DNA tests happened, and my wife happened to get the DNA reports before I did. And coming back out of the country one day, she met me at the Newark airport and said, Joseph Roberts, you are the father. Now, I want to share this because this is conversations that a lot of bishops and pastors would not have with you. It did not disrupt my family. I want to tell you that, number one. When we set our children down to tell them, we had now
Wait.
Go ahead.
If we're going to say it, we got to say it right. So actually, he called himself not telling me because he thought I would be upset. But how are you going to be upset over something that went on before you were even in the picture? And I say that because I have spoken to women who says, well, this happened years ago in his life, but I never knew about it. Why do I now have to deal with it? That's why I wanted to make sure that was in there.
Good point.
Because it happened before you were ever a part of his life, before even it came in fruition that you would be a family. So you have to help them deal with it.
Good point. Because, a blended family is a blended family. Rather, it's, as I said, we were both single parents, so the family became blended. And if we did not tell you at that point, our oldest two children were not biological, people would never know. They look like each other. They are all close. We don't do the step thing in our house. And then when we had our next addition come to the family, same thing. We don't do the steps. We are completely blended. Today, you would never know that everybody was not biologically from these loins and that womb. And so I share this in complete transparency. That emotional intimacy is so important. We know that there's a lot of people today that, rather it's from divorces or children out of wedlock, you have to form that blended family. And the intimacy that you have from an emotional standpoint, it allows you to love what your spouse loves. It allows you to nurture, nourish, and help to flourish what your spouse loves. So we share that. I wanted to give you that cliffhanger. And I don't want to take a deep dive into it, but I want you to know when we took this to our children, my son named after me and after my father, Joseph Nathaniel Roberts III, I was so concerned about how is he going to take it. That's my namesake. I mean, that's like my mini me right there. And when we went to him and the other kids, he's like, Dad, you've been a father to so many people. You're a father to my other biological siblings. My brother calls you dad. So how can you think I'm going to have an issue when he is biologically your son? And so I say that as we segue into, life or conversations beyond the pulpit, family dynamics. Family dynamics has a lot to play into your emotional connections. I'm going to use the word emotional connections, even though in my heart it's emotional intimacy, because you have those with your children. Everything that you produce, you are emotionally intimate with, not just connected to, but intimate with. Parents, and I'll explain it this way best. Sometimes we know what our kids are thinking before they even do it. We already know what they're thinking about doing. We already can see, and we say the spirit on them. No, it's our emotional connection. You wake up in the middle of the night, and this is for the saved and the unsaved. And so you wake up in the middle of the night and you call your child and just say, what's going on? And next thing you know, they're in impending danger or something's going on. They're pulled over on the side of the road. That is emotional intimacy. It's greater than connection, because you can just be connected to them because that's your child. But you are intimately involved with them. Soul is touching soul. And I thank God for the display of emotional intimacy that our children have seen in our marriage. Mm-hmm. It is the same one that we have with our children. I hug my sons. I'll kiss my sons on the cheek. They ain't getting none in the lips, but I'll kiss them on the cheeks. I kiss my daughter on the cheeks. We show that intimacy. And when I'm hurt, they know I'm hurt. When they're hurt, I know they're hurting. And I can tell you that connection that they've watched with their mother and I have allowed us to have that intimate connection with them, that our children talk to us pretty much about anything.
Any and everything.
Yes.
But so since I just want to refute one thing that he said, not really refute it, but he said that when you produce it, you're intimate with it. Well, I'm intimate with all my children, I believe. And like he said, we're a blended family. So when we met, he had a son, I had a daughter.
Yes.
And then we had a nephew that came into the picture also. So we have 6 children, we say.
Amen.
And well, now it's 6. Yes, it became 6 12 years ago. But we used to say 5, but it's 6 now.
Yeah.
So, yes, so now we have 5 sons and 1 daughter. And I love them all as they are all mine, even if I didn't birth them. So, that's what he means. So you can have still intimacy with them, even if you didn't birth
even
it.
If you didn't birth
If you
them.
have the love of Christ in you, and a child just needs your love, and you have to be willing to give it to them wholeheartedly. So all my sons call me mom, even though they have another mom. And I don't have no problem with it. So they call me mom. My daughter calls him dad. And I'm just going to say, she the only dad he knows. So, therefore, that's just it. She calls him dad. All my boys call me mom. And we don't love any one of them any different.
Any different.
So, that's our family dynamics. We call each other's moms mom, each other's dad dad, each other grandmom. And that's our life. And that's how we do it. Our grandkids, our nephew kids are our grandkids too. So we claim them all. And that's a family. It's a family. They used to call, the Brady Bunch. I know all of y'all remember that show.
Yeah, we remember it.
They was a blended family. He had 3 boys, she had 3 girls, and they came together as one. And that's how, and you got to love them like that, because if you're going to be willing to marry a person, whether they was divorced or had a child out of wedlock, if you say that's who you're going to be, you have to accept their children as well. You can't just accept them and not accept their children. And you may get pushed back from that child depending on the age, but you got to figure out how to include them in everything. Yes. And that's basically it. If you include them in everything, you will have no issue with them.
It goes back to that emotional intimacy, including them and letting them feel inclusive, I believe, is important. Because sometimes you can include people, mm-hmm. but they don't feel inclusive.
Mm-hmm. You got to make them feel wanted.
That's it. Got to make them feel wanted. You have to make them feel a part of it. This is really good today, because this is at the core of I believe, what we live for. Mm-hmm. In the midst of us living for God. Mm-hmm. My wife talked about our nephew who came to live with us, and in my heart, and I'll say this openly, and because of my love and connection with all of our children, I will tell anybody he's my firstborn. Yes, he is my sister's son. His dad was a big brother to me, taught me how to swim. The list can go on in the things that his dad has helped me with in my life. And so how can I not treat their son as if he's my son, when even though my sister was my oldest sister, she helped raise me just like I was her child. And so when you have those type of dynamics and you begin to understand and you have that intimacy and you have inclusivity with your children, they will love and respect each other for the place that they sit in, understanding that me looking at one as my firstborn is just because he has been close to me longer, so he should have gained more wisdom, more understanding, knows a little bit more about the family construct, can carry a little bit of the burden as we develop and help push the other siblings to their level, but it doesn't mean I love one more than the other. And I think that's very important when we talk about family intimacy. Just because a parent may rely on one more than the other doesn't mean they love one more than they love the other one. It sometimes just comes down to a matter of age. And then as we look at life, it comes down to a matter of skill set. It comes down to a matter of commonality. This is what we have in common together. I have my youngest son that I do. I go to the gym with 3-4 days a week. He's my personal trainer. Growing up, he wanted to be an athlete. So when it came down to athleticism, I spent more time working with him than I did the other children. And I'm just giving the family dynamics. Then I have our niece son, who I probably spent more time in church with, talking about church, who's our youth pastor today, or pastor today of the church. So it's all of these things that we have to understand as a family in being blended, and we have to learn how to put certain things in perspective that our children would understand through communication and intimacy where the parent's head and heart is at. Because, when you look at the family, whether it's marriage or your children, that's what the devil fights. That's what he opposes. And they have friends that are in the world, may not be saved, and their dynamics can look like yours, but have a whole different set of construct and issues going on. And so us that have the breathed inspiration of God in our heart, and we are kingdom citizens, we have to be able to communicate with our children, why certain things look the way it looks. It has nothing to do with our love. Our interaction may look different, but it has nothing to do with our love. You look at that from a scriptural standpoint. The Bible tells us that Jesus is the firstborn of many brethren. But yet when we look at our position in God, he counts us as one. So he's the firstborn of all of us that would be born through him into the sonship of God. And yet we're all one body. So if we understand the love of God, we understand that Jesus went to the cross. We understand that he went down to the grave. He rose with all power in his hand, but he seated us right inside of Christ, and he looks at us as equal, inclusive. We are one body. He's the head, but we're still one body. So I just share that because when we talk about intimacy from an emotional standpoint, these are the things that we have to be able to talk to our children about. We have to be able to explain to them why I'm communicating certain things in certain lanes to your siblings that may have not been communicated with you. but don't let the conversation make you think the love is any different. And so when we look at that, we all become a blended family with complete exclusivity and transparency because we have access to the Father's heart, soul, and money. Sorry, got to throw that in there. Dear.
Yes, that is true, because each child has their own expertise. They have their own way of learning. They have their own thought pattern. They have their own mindset. And when raising children, and especially when you have a large group of children, you have to remember that. Just because the first one got straight A's don't mean the second one getting straight A's. Just because the second one got straight B's don't mean that third one getting straight C's. They could be getting straight E's or they could be getting D's. You never know. But you learn how to help them learn better, and before you know it, they are all doing better. And I can tell you this one story about how them as a blended family became one. One time somebody broke something at home, and I wanted to know who broke it. They all knew who broke it, but they banded together and wouldn't tell me who broke it. They was like, don't say nothing, don't say nothing. So I got each of them individual. It's like, who broke it? I don't know what happened. Well, one of y'all know what happened. So since nobody know what happened, then all of y'all on punishment. And to this day, we don't know who broke it. And to this day, that's all I want to say. And when I brought that up to them one time, I think it was around Christmas time when we had Christmas breakfast or lunch. They all still laugh about it. So that's all I got to say. And they all almost 30. The youngest will be 30 in a couple of years. And they still keep this from us to this day. Not like they can get in trouble now, but they still keep it from us. So if you raise them to be one family, a combined family that love one another, trust one another, and you don't have no favorites. I've had that question thrown at me so many times. Well, who's your favorite child? I don't have a favorite child because they all have driven me crazy at one point. I don't have a favorite one. I have one that I would tell this to because I know they know how to handle it and deal with it, and one, that I wouldn't tell certain things to because they just would go off. Yeah. So, you just learn each child's particular expertise, and that's how you be a blended family of one. They always say, when two get married, they become one. But I think some people forget that their children, when you have them, they become one of you too.
Become one.
Whether they are from both of you or from one of you, but they become one. They learn to love. And I can say for myself, none of my kids have ever said to me, well, why they get the same thing I get? Why they do that? Because they know. Because the love is there for each and every one of them. Even the one that entered the family only 12 years ago. Everybody show love. Everybody love one another. It's just one big, cohesive, loving family. Yeah. So, and they can be intimate with one another. If one's having an issue, they will go to their brother and they'll have a conversation with him. No, I need to talk to this brother because I got this going on. I need to talk to that brother because I got this going on. They know themselves who can help them with whatever it is they got going on at that particular time in their life. And all the wives, we don't do the in-law thing either. We don't do the step thing. We don't do the in-law thing. Everybody call both of us mom or dad. We're mom and dad. And brother that's just that simple. Brother and sister, mom and dad. Oh, let me call my sister such and such. And that's just how we are. Just one big loving family. I can't really say that there's any isms or schisms between any of them. I just can't.
I'm going to come back to that.
Really?
It's my turn now?
Is it your turn?
Yeah, I think
don't
so.
know. You think so?
So good segue. So my wife's talking about how this is good for me. This is very therapeutic right now. I just want y'all to know that. So she tells this story about the children, and this is 20 years ago when they all banded together and nobody would tell. They're still like that to this day. Nobody tells on the other person. And so Dad becomes the old man on the sideline some days, even though they share everything with me. So if there is ever an ism or schism, it's never with them with each other. It's with the old man. I don't know how he'll handle this. So we gonna be on each other's side until he gets a grip on whatever's going on. And there's nothing wrong with that because we are so close together that, I'm not without a witness. I'm not without help. So I normally, I lick my wounds, I pick my battles, and I just go home and talk to my wife and say, your children. But, again, when you talk about, I'm going to take it one step further. And, we're not trying to portray that we are the Huxtables. We said this in, I think, our first podcast. We've been to the courthouse. We have had a son that suffered a traumatic brain injury. We have had certain issues with our kids in dating, just like any other family would have. But love has always prevailed, always prevailed. And you talk about the family being blended. I can say through respect that we've had for their biological parents, I think that's what help us even being cohesive to this day. My daughter's grandmother would watch our joint children together. My son Joseph's grandmother would watch our joint children together. And I believe when you want to have a blended family, it comes down to love and respect. When you can respect the people that were part of your spouse's life, it's easier for the children to have respect for the family that they're being blended into. When they can see that love, when they can see that respect. As I said, our children have siblings by their parents that's on the other side. And we get along with their siblings. Everybody comes to our house. We still have conversations with those that we were in relationships with before we got married, rather through church or rather through just making sure what our children is connected to, that they're okay. And I say that because, it's all about love. We are engrafted, Paul uses a legal term, adopted into the body of Jesus Christ. We were Gentiles, aliens of the cross, aliens to salvation. And then he brings us all together as one family. And so if I learned how to love my brother that is of a different ethnicity, of different way of life, and some that have even come from different religions, and now we are gathered as one body, compact, jointly fit together, why is there problems with us being blended as families, even though the child may have come from a different womb or from a different set of circumstances? Once we come together as one family, we're to be of one mind, of one love, of one speech. We are an inclusive society. And so part of being inclusive is we can't have a graduation and don't invite the other parent to the graduation party. And that's just not, well, we'll invite the mom or we'll invite the dad. No, you invite their spouse and you treat them with the same love. And so I believe as we look at this, Conversations Beyond the Pulpit, in complete transparency, we do have some elevating to do in love. Mm-hmm. We do have some submitting to do in love, because in order for us to have a blended family and let our children have healthy and thriving relationships with their, biological parents, if we are now blending, we have to have a sense of assurity of who we are in their life, what we have perpetrated and projected towards them. But then we have to make sure whatever the issues were that caused to the separation in that previous relationship, that we're completely over it and still have love in our heart. Because I got to be able to love efficiently and effectively what's connected to our children. That's my view on it, that everybody has to be inclusive in order for love to flow without dissimulation. Might have been a little too churchy for you today, but I can't find agape outside of the scriptures and the Holy Spirit. We cannot love each other, and we cannot love in this world that is in a downward spiral. Every day we have things that we are attracted to that we want to fall in love with. That's called idolatry. And so therefore we need the perfect work of God in our hearts that we can blend. Dear?
I don't know. Well,
We're back on family.
yeah, we're still on family.
So let me tell you a family story.
Family love. What family story are you going to tell?
I don't know. I'm thinking of one right now.
Lord.
So when you think about the conversation we're having today, we've all come out of a pandemic, and so in that pandemic we were shut in because we were shut out of a lot of things, and this was a time for us to reset and become intimate. We were able to work more on our intimacy, good, bad, or indifferent. We found that being on a hamster wheel, working all day, coming home late, it gave us less of an opportunity to have to look at the person we're married to and deal with the children. But in the midst of that, right, we all had to, I think, dig a little bit deeper, because I believe that we're all wired to have space. And I don't just blame that on us. God did that when he created us. He gave us a particular space. He put us in the garden. He carved out something for us. Some of us, different places in our home is our carved out space. So we learn how to accept intrusion, people being in our carved out space, rather it's our children, rather it's our spouses.
I don't know about that.
Well, not us, some people.
Oh,
I'm just saying, I got to talk about everybody here. This is a podcast. It's going to go viral one day.
Yes,
so I got to include everybody.
Saying, because
I've heard people say, we've been in counseling, this is my queendom. This is my bedroom. I let him come in here. I'm just going through all of the years of.
That's true. I thought you was talking about our family.
No,
I was saying because quite a few of us in our family are introverts, and he's an extrovert, but most of us are introverts.
I'm an extra
and
intro.
I think our other son is an extrovert too, because he can go anywhere, meet anybody, and be okay by himself and just hang out. So yeah, meet somebody and just talk to him, and that's him. So that's the only one those two are extroverts. All the rest of us are introverts.
I think Carlene's an extrovert too.
She's on the fence.
You think so?
Yeah, because sometimes when she want her space, she want her space. She don't want nobody in it.
So.
But she's very outgoing also. And she don't mind talking to a lot of people also. So, yeah. So, she's like, she is more of an extrovert than an introvert, but she just has her moments. But the rest of us are really introverts, and we okay in each other's space. But it's okay because we do open up. We are willing to have other people come in.
Right.
So, but we're still not extroverts.
I got it. So that's kind of where I was going. So now people had to let family members and everybody into their space. And I believe it created a opportunity for us to become more intimate and begin to find ways to dig deeper from a emotional standpoint. Now, some people got drama from it, but I think rather it was drama, or rather it first was drama, then you had to find resolution. But at the end of the day, we have come out of a great opportunity to connect, to reset our marriages, our families, and because, if you didn't live in the same household, you couldn't even sit in the same row at church.
Yes.
So I look at something that could have divided us, gave us an opportunity to emotionally connect, and as a family unit, as well as a church unit, jobs, and it was really a good time for the entire globe to reset in being emotionally connected, caring, and concerned about each other. So that's it for our podcast today. I hope that the cliffhanger really helped you, that there is nothing you go through when you are emotionally connected and you have that intimacy, one heart touching the other, nothing that God won't navigate you through, no matter how disruptive it can look to your perfect marriage or imperfect marriage, however you deem it to be. One thing we know, that marriage is ordained by God, and so therefore he's in the midst of it, he's in the thick of it. I ask that you continue to follow us on all of our social media platforms, visit our website at the church. Until we meet again, our next episode, we're going to dig into finances, and I'm not just talking about money, I'm talking about asset management, risk tolerance. We are really going to take a deep dive into it, because we have to put something out there that finances and money will stop being the number one cause of divorce. I understand things happen, and I'm not advocating for divorce. I don't believe in it, but things do happen in life. It does. So I'm being very transparent of where I sit. But what we have to do is stop letting money disrupt our marriages and our emotional intimacy. We love you. Until next time, heaven smile upon you. God bless you.